Chapter covers a lot of interesting points and that deal with children, like adoption and child protective services. But I didn't believe it addressed stuff like prevention, which I thought was really important.
Yeah, I agree. Because I was looking at the one part where it discussed the preservation of a family, and it just appears like that's not cost effective. It's too much to be involved with, and the caseloads are so high that is just, it's not feasible to do that. But still, that is not a prevention. There's not a way to, there needs to be a way, I feel, of keeping these things from happening. I know at my church we have a lot of families that do foster care and that have adopted, and for one instance it's like, and they do the special needs children, and there was an instance where after a child was placed in the home, the child had issues to where they had to soundproof a whole room. I mean, it just totally, what am I trying to say?
There's things that you don't know going in,
Yeah.
and the support isn't there.
Right. Yeah, and then there is not support after that.
You're kind of out there on your own once you
Exactly.
kind of get the child.
And I thought that was just, that's something you don't hear about, that there's a lot involved. So I just think there's
and it affects
more,
the families, as well as the
needs
child.
to-
The child's affected already, because
Yeah.
of the abuse or whatever they've gone through. But the actual family that's taken that child in is affected as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their entire family is affected. I know we were talking earlier about the family that had marital issues after taking
Yeah, I mean, the chapter does address that when adoptive parents go in, adopting sometimes older children, that there's a lot of issues, and that usually the mother has to address because she's the main caregiver, and they're not really prepared for that because they go into this adoption, wanting a child and without thinking, what are the issues of this, what that child has experienced in the past and how it's going to affect the entire family.
Right.
So.
I think we all kind of agree that the chapter does a lot of describing, different parts and aspects of the services, and it does more so give definitions of these services rather than kind of go in depth of the nitty gritty of it. It doesn't really give
the pros and the cons.
Exactly. It doesn't give the pros and cons of what these different services actually involve. It's more so just the definition of what it is.
And like I said, I would like to see more prevention. All of these services that are listed, CPS involvement and foster care, adoption, all of those are after the fact.
Right. The prevention, and the things that happened before would be a lot more of what I would have liked to read about and or even have. It feels like there's not that much out there that deals with prevention.
It just seems like a lot of these situations are unavoidable because you're not going to have the resources there in the beginning to try to prevent them.
But once they've already happened, the resources are there. You have all this stuff that you can kind of go into. But the thing is, it'd be more beneficial if those resources were there in the first place. You don't have to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, guys, that
I mean, we were talking earlier that you were talking about your friend who does services for the schools.
Right.
But when she's addressing like violence and dating and stuff like that, the counselors from the schools are selecting a specific group of high-risk kids, and the entire population of the school isn't really benefiting from those services, and that really leaves kids out that could benefit. And I think the goal should be to address issues early on, so as adults, we're not seeing the problems in the community.
Right. If you're curious as to what she's referring to, I wrote my essay for my interview on the social worker. You can look that up in the discussion board. That's what she's referring to, and this is Tamara, by the way. You can look that up if you're curious as to what she's talking about. And the social worker that I interviewed, she works within the schools and with those kids like that. So that's what she's talking about.
as Nancy was talking about with prevention, I know the food pantry that I volunteered at, their focus is not on how much money you make, do you qualify to do this, or where you live, or even what your name is. Their mission is to just help you get through whatever you need to get through. And I think a big part of that is because the clients will come in and they talk one-on-one with the intake people. They'll talk about their week. I've seen where they came back the next week and talk again, and they're building a bond that where it's a trust.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing, they're not just coming to get some food. Yes, they need food. That's why they're coming.
They're not being
But
alienated
they're
from the rest of the
getting-
community.
Exactly.
They're getting to feel like a part of something and have communication open that they didn't have before. So in doing that, I feel like that's a big step in
Toward
prevention.
prevention.
Yeah, and not just
Of other things, because
Yeah.
obviously, you
You
know,
know.
the prevention of them not having food. You know, they're obviously
Yeah.
already have an issue because they're having to come for food.
And then we have
so you can't prevent
resources
that.
we can give them, and hopefully this will all prevent any further thing that would need to involve a quote social worker,
Exactly,
which
or
everybody
more
associates with
major
CPS
resource.
and on down the line.
Right. Exactly.
So
And I think when it comes to kids, I would like to see more programs where the kids, more kids,
Karate, interactive.
more kids have access to summer camps and after-school programs, because I think that's very important, for their development and just the social skills and
Getting
and
out of
just
the house.
Yeah, and just reducing the stress in the household for some parents that are single parents and stuff.
But see, when
Because
you're,
all of those, you have for instance, a single parent with raising several children. Those are a lot of stressors that lead to, abuse later on the line.
yeah, but
so
if
that's
you're a
what you
middle
want to
income
prevent.
family, being middle income family, you're not going to qualify for
Exactly.
anything with the standards that are set now. Legislation has got to be changed.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it does. And it's just the same when you have children who need more specific type of treatments, like maybe a residential treatment center. These are children who are usually on the bottom scale financially,
Right.
but even, for instance, Medicaid will not cover that treatment.
Exactly. Yeah, I've had that instance happen in my own family with a relative of mine. She went through an issue, and it's. The thing is, when you go through something that you're going to be needing residential treatment for, extra help or care for, it really does matter what insurance you have, because based on that, it's going to be the deciding factor of where you end up. You might end up in a hospital that is not so clean or not so.
Or with no treatment at all.
It's not, the
exactly.
treatment
Or
is
no
not
treatment
That's
there.
what
Yeah.
with my son. That's what's happened. He's
Yeah.
been on
The treatment
Medicaid,
is not there.
and pretty much no residential treatment in Texas will accept Medicaid.
There you go.
So then you have children who could benefit from a service, who can benefit from a treatment, but aren't getting it.
That aren't getting it. And a lot of these children really do need that treatment.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
and a lot of the treatment is actually
Not just
helpful,
3 days,
Yeah.
because that's all your insurance will cover you, so
Exactly.
you're only in there for
That's-
3 days.
And
That is not gonna
alternatives, and
accomplish
there should be
anything.
alternatives available for them. For
the,
instance, kids who
families
have
that can't
ADHD
afford it. Yeah.
don't have to always be medicated.
There
Because
should be something else.
Something
in
else
place
available.
of that. Or something to help them
Some
while in school. That
therapeutic
they don't
type
have to take
Yeah.
a medicine.
counseling that they
Calm
have
them down.
hands-on and cognitive
and I think
counseling.
when it
things.
comes down to is people wanting to be involved, we do need more people
Yeah.
that want to be involved, that want to be mentors to kids, that want to
Right.
help the
advocate for them.
families and not just pointing fingers and
Once it's already
and
happened,
things
it's
like
part
that.
of the prevention.
It needs
as
to be
well.
prevention.
Yeah, it's part of the prevention as well,
Yeah.
is to have those people that want to get out there and help and talk to people, even if you don't know that they already have a problem.
That's right.
I
Because
think
obviously
the
if they already have a
responsibility
problem,
needs to be
prevention's
put back
not.
on the community
Exactly.
for the children, because ultimately, these are the kids that we're going to have as adults.
Right.
We don't want them to end up in prison,
Right.
Right.
or end up, just with more issues.
I agree. So